I am on time. Thank goodness. Hi. How you doing, Hannah? Hi, Ashley. Hi, Shannon. I bet you are. I know you've been working overtime on those, getting it finished. That's good, though. Alrighty. Okay, tonight we are talking about which credential to get. We're going to talk about the differences between inpatient and outpatient and why I chose to get the Ccs-P first. Hi, Maria. A lot of people asked me, I've been asked that question a lot. Why did you get the Ccs-P when you could have just gotten the CCS? We'll get into that. Hi, King. Hi, Caitlin. I had to reschedule my exam and orientation. I got COVID. Oh no, my family member went. Oh my goodness, Caitlin, I am so sorry. Oh, I hope everything's gonna be okay. I'll be praying for you, okay? And I hope that you get better soon, okay, too. Because just get your rest. Make sure you keep moving around. That's what they say. Don't stop, because when you stop, that's when it seems like it just takes over. I had a friend who had it too, and it's, you just got to keep moving. When you feel tired, that's when you got to move around, because your lungs got to stay open and they got to stay going, so oh my goodness. Well, I hope that everything works out for you, and like I said, just I'm gonna keep you in my prayers today. So hi, Patrice. Hi, Blue. Been loving your Christmas in July series. Oh, I'm so glad. It's a lot of memory lane stuff with Christmas in July, so it's been really nice. It's been nice to think about some of those things and remember those times, Caitlin, thank you. I'm more on the tail end of it. I took tons of vitamins and kept going, and I'm on day 5. Good. Okay, good. Yes. Ashley says, Caitlin, feel better. I hope your family member recovers quickly too. Yes, you got a lot of love here tonight, Caitlin. It's so nerve-wracking, right? It's something it's just out there. It's still out there. It's this invisible thing that's still out there. So I hope everyone is careful. Okay. Well, that's okay. You can always catch up, Caitlin. You can always catch up. Yeah, guy. It's Christmas in July. Oh, and I found out also why it's Christmas in July. So in like Australia and in Africa and like South Africa and stuff like that, everything below the equator right now is all like Christmassy temperatures. So I checked the temperature in Australia the other day, and it was like 60 degrees. And so like here in Texas, it's like 85, 90 degrees. So that it's switched. When you are below the equator right now, this time of year, it is the winter time. And then in the winter time for us, it's like summer down there. So yes, totally, right? Patrice says, sending prayers to you and your family, Caitlin. Yes. It's always good. It's comforting. All right, so 7:34. Let's go ahead and get into the show. We got a full house tonight. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Tonight, I am talking about which medical coding credential to get, as far as if you want to work in the outpatient setting or if you want to work in the inpatient setting, and I will explain the difference between the two. I will also tell you guys why I chose to get the Ccsp over getting the CCA, right? Okay, so let us begin. Okay. I guess so, guy. All right. When it comes to credentials, I always say the same thing. You have to get certified with AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, or AAPC, the American Academy of Professional Coders. If you are wanting to work in the outpatient setting, there are so many opportunities for the outpatient setting because it is all of your freestanding clinics. It is like urgent care in the ER. It is outpatient hospital clinic visits. That is all outpatient coding, right? And when you have things like nursing homes and things like that, skilled nursing facilities, things like that, they all use the outpatient coding. They use the CPT manual, which is the current procedural terminology manual, and all of your procedure codes are already put together. It's not like on the inpatient side where these codes are like custom built to the patient. So I'll get into that in a minute. But when you're on the outpatient side, there's plenty of opportunities for jobs because think about it. Hospitals are limited on their inpatient number of patients, right? Because it is however many beds they have. However, a patient can be in the hospital for a day. They can be in the hospital for 60 days or 90 days or 120 days. It just depends on what is going on with that patient. So there is plenty of opportunity for inpatient coders out there. Inpatient coders being the coders that are working with patients they're not working with them, but they're coding their charts that are staying in the hospital. And so when they stay in the hospital, it's not about evaluation and management because that does not apply to the inpatient setting. So the inpatient setting, they have a different procedure manual. They do not use a CPT manual. They do not do evaluation and management coding. They do work from the ICD-10 PCS manual, and that is the inpatient procedures coding book. Now, that's just the procedure side. Both sides use ICD-10-CM, which is the diagnosis book. It's got all your diagnoses in it. But on the inpatient side, you are custom building these procedure codes if a patient has a procedure while they're staying in the hospital, and you do have to know the different rules. Inpatient rules and outpatient rules are completely different. They have different accepting things that what they can pick up and what they can't pick up. So it really depends on which way you're going. There is a debate about which test is easier, which setting is easier to get in. For some people, they struggle with inpatient coding, so they never get into it and they only stay on the outpatient side. For some people, they really love the inpatient coding and it can never click. The outpatient side CPT book, they don't understand it. I know many inpatient coders who look at me to my face and will tell me, I don't understand how you understand how to use a CPT manual. Well, let's talk about this first, okay? With your ICD-10 PCS manual having to come up with all of these codes that you're building them yourself, you have to understand the approaches and you have to understand the reason why they're doing procedures. Yeah, okay. To me, looking up a procedure that's already put together and I don't have to put it together, trust me, that's a lot easier to me in my mind. I have been studying for the inpatient side of the house. I do have some goals that I will be talking about later. But it is an additional section that you're learning. Most programs will train you if you're being trained for like the CPC, they're going to train you for the outpatient setting because that is what the CPC is. It is an outpatient coding credential. It does not cover anything on the inpatient side. So you would not need an ICD-10 PCS manual. Now, on the, there's two combination credentials that cover both inpatient and outpatient. And that is the CCA, or the Certified Coding Associate, and this is considered the entry-level credential with the American Health Information Management Association. This is a very good and viable credential. I had it for many years. I stubbornly held on to my CCA because a lot of people talk trash about the CCA and they say, oh, it's no good, no one asked for it. Baloney, because I had it. I've trained many people. I've trained CCSs, I've trained other CCAs, CCSPs, CPCs, RHIAs, and RHITs. So please, no. That's not the way that it is. So it is a very good credential. It's only a 2-hour exam, but it packs a punch. And it does test you on both inpatient and outpatient. So somebody who holds this credential is qualified to do inpatient coding or outpatient coding, so they can essentially go anywhere. Now there is a CCS, which is the gold standard of medical coding credentials, if anybody says anything else otherwise. The thing is, the CCS also covers inpatient and outpatient coding. So you have to know ICD-10 PCS and ICD-10, not ICD-10, CPT. You have to know both for the CCS. And the CCS is considered the mastery credential for inpatient and outpatient coding. So it is a very tough exam. It is not impossible to pass this exam, but if you go onto the AHIMA website, it will tell you how many first-time pass rate, what the first-time pass rate is. So you have to really study. You have to know your regulations. You have to know your inpatient rules, your outpatient rules. You have to understand when to apply what set of codes. So there's a lot to this exam. And it's, like I said, it's not something that's easy. So, but anyway, this credential will let you go anywhere because a lot of employers ask for this. They want to be able to use their staff to the most efficient way that they can. So if they have a person who can code both inpatient and outpatient, great. Because if something happens to somebody on the inpatient side, they got somebody to cover. So that's why you get a lot of opportunity that way. But if you are wanting just to stick to the outpatient side, AHIMA also has the Ccsp, which I currently hold. This is the mastery of the outpatient setting coding. So it is just covering CPT and, of course, the diagnosis coding as well. But you do not do anything with inpatient coding on that exam. Okay, it is all outpatient. Again, it is the mastery of the outpatient setting. If you want to go outpatient coding and you want to go with AAPC, that is the Cpc Credential. Now the Cpc Credential, it is all outpatient coding. It is a multiple choice exam and you have 4 choices per question. It is a 5-hour and 40-minute exam if you're going to the place where it's proctored, right? And it's covering all of the outpatient setting. So that is something if you have your choice now, if you want to go either way. With the associations, both of them are really good. AAPC, I will say, however, has more of a grassroots type movement, and there's a lot more like engagement of the people, the membership and things like that. They have a wonderful customer service hotline, and there's always people around. There's lots of local chapters and things like that. Not that AHIMA doesn't have this, but it just seems because the numbers are a lot with AAPC, and it could be for a variety of reasons, but because of that, I say that, it's still good anyway. Either one is fine. So if you want to stick to the outpatient setting, if they're training you only on the CPT manual, right, you can go with the CPC or the Ccsp. And the Ccsp, again, is a Certified Coding Specialist, physician-based, okay? So either way. But if you want to take that leap and go inpatient and outpatient coding, then you can go with the CCA, which is the entry-level credential, or the CCS. There used to be requirements to be able to sit for the CCS, but AHIMA has since lifted those requirements. So now it's anybody's game. So if you study hard enough and you want to take it and you feel confident enough, then by all means. With AAPC, they do have the CIC, or the Certified Inpatient Coder. I have seen this asked for in some job postings. They will be looking for somebody who can do inpatient and outpatient coding. So they will say that they want the CCS, the CCA, or the CPC and the CIC. So that is something that, if you're already with AAPC and you want to get the inpatient credential, the CIC is the way to go. Now that I would recommend, if you're going to stick with AAPC And I know I say a lot of things about not getting additional credentials when you are brand new, but that is something that's different because it is saying that you can code both inpatient and outpatient, because some people go through these programs that do train you for both. And you'll know that they're training you for both because there will be a section on CPT and there will be a section on ICD-10 PCS. So that is how you know you're getting trained. Sometimes they won't even tell you what exam to sit for. So people are sort of left adrift and like, I don't know what exam I'm taking. A lot of times I will get messages from people that will say, well, I need your tutoring service to help me study for my final exam. I said, okay, well, what exam or what certification are you taking? Well, I don't know yet. You don't know yet. And you're finishing the program. I mean, you got to know. You got to have some kind of direction, because that's the only way you're going to know how to properly study. Yes, if you are studying for the CCS, you can definitely study with the AAPC prep book for their CPC, because they have a lot of the outpatient scenarios and things like that. Obviously, studying with the ICD-10 PCS workbook as well, if you're going to study for the CCS exam, is the right way to go. But I do recommend the CPC exam prep book, or however it's called. I always get like exam prep book. You guys know what I mean. It's the test prep guide or something like that. It's the one with all the the scenarios in it. I have the link. I will leave it when I update this video. But it's the Amazon affiliate link. You don't have to click on it. The title is there. So, but I do like that because it's got a lot of really good scenarios in it. Some of the answers I kind of question, but for the most part, it does explain how it got to the answers. So I do recommend that. Hi, Misty. Hi, Christina. Does HCPCS apply to both? Yes. Caitlin, Blue, have you ever gone over CPT 4 codes? It's a CPT manual. It's just a 4th edition. That's just all it is. It is the CPT book. It's not anything different. It's just the same CPT. Christina, and if you have the choice to do the CPC online, it's broken into 2 blocks of 2 hours and 40 minutes each. Yes. But you have to stay there those 2 hours and 40 minutes. You cannot get up or do anything, and you have the camera on you. So, you know, that's, I don't know, for some people that's nerve-wracking. But for other people, it works out great. You know, it all depends, but it's up to you. So what else was I going to say? So yes, so it is your choice entirely, whichever way you want to go. I always recommend looking in your area to see which credential they're asking for the most. If you absolutely cannot decide, with AAPC, you do have to be a member of their association in order to sit for their exams. So you do have to pay that membership fee before. AHIMA does not have this requirement. So they have a price for members, and a price for non-members. So what degree do you recommend? Chancel says that. I hope I said that right. Yeah, Chancel. I like that. What degree do I recommend? It depends on what you want to do. The RHIT, which is a Registered Health Information Technician, and you have to go, these 2 credentials or these 2 degree designations I'm going to be talking about, you have to go through a CAHIM approved program in order to be able to sit for these. So you got to be careful. Just make sure if you're going to sign up for these degree programs that it is approved through CAHIM. Now, with the RHIT, the Registered Health Information Technician, this is the associate's degree. It is undergoing a change, and it's going to be different soon enough. But the idea is that they want the degree holders to be more, to educate themselves more, right? So they're kind of pushing more towards the bachelor's degree, which is the RHIA, which is the Registered Health Information Administrator. Now, there is so many RHITs. That is the highest credential, the highest number of people that hold credentials. That is the highest one, right, for AHIMA. They have, that is the largest number of credential holders that have the RHIT. that is, it depends if you want to be in a leadership type position. If you want to be in a leadership type position, then by all means go with the degree programs, the RHIT or the RHIA. You can be an educator for providers. You can be an educator for other coders. You can be an auditor. You can do a lot of things. You're essentially a manager or a supervisor or a lead coder if you have the RHIT. Again, with the RHIA, that's going to be somebody that's in the executive suite. So if all of that is not of interest of you, with being on the manager side, then by all means stick with the certifications. A lot of people think that you need a degree in order to make really good money in this field. I will tell you that I make more money than a degree holder, quite a few degree holders that I know. So that does not guarantee you more money. It does not guarantee you that you're going to get what you want in this field, because it's really weird the way it is, because you don't need a degree, even though it was ingrained in all of us, right? You growing up, you need a degree to make really good money. With medical coding, certifications hold just as much weight, if not more, because a lot of times employers will even ask for RHIAs or RHITs to hold a certification in addition to their degree designations. So it's either one. If you want to do that, I mean, it's fine. To me, I don't know if I would ever get the degree. I mean, honestly, because if you're going to go the degree route, you got to go all the way, to me. So I would have to go with the RHIA. If I'm going to suggest anything, I would go with the RHIA, which is the bachelor's. Because if you're going to do anything, you may as well go all the way. And then go higher than that, if you really find that you enjoy it. And I also say this too, if you're considering the degree programs, be a coder first. Really know if you like to do this or not, because there's so many people, they don't know anything about coding, get their degree, and they have no idea what to do with it. And they're like, I don't know anything about coding, or I don't like coding. Okay, then why did you get the degree? Well, because it just looked like it was a good field to get into. It's steady, it's good money. Yes, but you got to enjoy what you're doing too. You're going to be doing this for 40 hours a week for 30, 40 years, at least until you retire. You got to enjoy what you're doing. And sometimes you won't know until you're in the field, right? And it's situational depending on where you're at. Because sometimes you can start a job and not really like it because of the environment. And then if you switch environments, then, all of a sudden everything's hunky-dory and you're okay. So it really all depends. But I always recommend that if you're going to go the degree route, at least be a coder first and know what you're getting yourself into. At least that's my advice. I would do that, but again, that would be because I understand. And to me, I would get the RHIA because long term, right, I would want to be able to teach in a school, right? And so that would be something that in school, being like a university or something like that, that's what I would want to do. Or be an instructor for doctors. That's what I would want to do long term. Not to say that I couldn't do it with just my certification, because there's plenty of trade schools that will accept just a degree, not a degree, but a certification holder to teach their classes. So it really all depends on where you are. Because I've seen even some schools that allow people who have a lapsed credential to even teach as well. So to me, that's not right. But what do I know? Kaylin says, I like how the CCA is both a little coding and billing, and I think both should know how to do each other's jobs or the basics of it. It's all of them have reimbursement in there somehow, some way. All the exams have reimbursement. So it's not just a CCA. It's all the credentials. They all test you on some form of reimbursement. So that's why I say, if you have the chance to do something like start as a coder first and then, move on, to see what you like to do. And sometimes people will start off as a coder and then, or they'll start off as a biller and decide they like billing and they want to do their own medical billing business. And by all means, I always encourage entrepreneurs anyway. But if you want to do billing, it's great that you understand how to do the coding side, because when I have to educate the billers, right? It's just like they sit there and they'll be like, oh, no, you missed this. No. I didn't miss anything. Let me show you how. And I don't mind if somebody points something out to me, but don't accuse me of missing something. Okay, let's go over the rules here for a second. Okay, I'm very meticulous. I don't miss things. That's number one. Number two, I mean, it is helpful to understand and not just believe what you're hearing, what you're seeing, because people's experience is different. Everyone's experience level is going to be different, and everybody's understanding can vary because sometimes people think of certain things and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's this way and it's this way, and it's actually not that way. I have seen coders who don't quite understand injury coding very well suggest to use Z codes in addition to, oh, no. When it comes to injury coding, whether they had a surgery or not, well, Bleu, they had a surgery. I don't care. You're still using only the injury codes. You will never use Z codes, and that is in the book. So, but what do I know? Yes, so, but that was my recommendation on the degree. I hope that does enlighten a little bit. But like I said, when it comes to that, before you start investing all that money into a degree, know what you're getting yourself into, and try to find another degree holder. Try to find an RHIA or RHIT to talk to, and talk to them. Tell them, ask them questions, because it's very important when we start asking each other questions about our positions and what we're doing. It opens the doors to a lot of things. If I had never created my channel, I know there would be people out there who would have been taken advantage of, because there's a lot of people out there who give self-serving information, and I'm not about that. I'm always telling you guys, either one, AHIMA or AAPC. Do I mention any other credentials other than this? No, because employers are not looking for those. And a lot of times schools will sell, oh yes, you can get all this money with all these credentials that no one is asking for, but they're selling this product to you. And so, no, I'm not going to let that happen, not on my channel, because I have been approached before. There was a slimy guy, and I will say that he was very slimy. And he says, oh, well, I have this school platform, and, we're going to start selling these programs to busy working people or stay-at-home moms. Yeah, you're targeting people and you're selling a dream. Oh, yes, well, they're going to get this credential for free. Oh, no. Well, we'll pay you to say that you support our product. No, you can't. You cannot buy me. I don't think so. Because I'm not doing this for the money to get rich and all this stuff. I'm not here to sell you a product. I'm here to tell you the truth. This is what it is. Some people don't like what I say, but that's okay, because what I say, I know is going to touch the people that it needs to touch. Okay. Because again, I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I want you to get into a career that you love. I happen to love this career, but that's my own personal opinion. And yes, I do share all the great things that happen. And I also share the times when I'm tearing my hair out. And it's like, it's very frustrating. I share that also, because it's not always glamorous. It's not always flashy. It's not always fun. It's reading, it's studying, it's long hours of quiet time, so, but if it helps to share my story, that's what I'm going to continue to do. And very loudly, I will say that I support AHIMA or AAPC. So only when it comes to credentials. And I always say, you got to do your research, folks. Look in the job listings, and the job listings will not lie. Maria says, can someone who is in an RHIT program take a coding credential instead of the RHIT credential, or does that person need to take the RHIT exam or just take a coding program? you don't have to take the RHIT. But I will say that you just spent a lot of money to become a coder, because there's no guarantee that you're even going to be able to pass the certification exam. Because from what I have seen of the RHIT and RHIA programs, there's not a whole lot of coding on this. Not to say that you couldn't pass a certification exam, right? But I've seen many people who've gone through the RHIT programs and not taken the exam, and they end up getting a certification instead. So it is possible. I mean, you are the master of your own destiny. If you choose not to take that final exam, that's entirely up to you. You can still have it. You can still have that you completed that program, that you have your diploma, or you have your associates, but you will not be able to carry that designation after your name. And that is what a lot of employers are going to be looking for, especially if you've gone to that program. So if you don't want to take it, you don't have to. But again, it's a long way around, and that's a lot of education to not take the exam, you know. Miss J, hi, does it matter what state you take the CCS? Will the credential carry from state to state? Yes, ma'am. It will carry worldwide, and you do not have to change. You do not have to get registered with the state. You don't have to do anything. You have to just take your certification through either association. In the case of the CCS, you're taking it through AHIMA, and you got to be able to maintain it with continuing education units. And as long as you do that in your 2-year reporting period, you are good to go. So yeah, we're not like nurses or doctors where we have to register with the state. You know, if they move, they got to register with the state. We are not that way. Yeah, it is good nationwide. Annabelle says, hello, what to take for just coding? You're welcome, Maria. What do you mean what to take for just coding? Like a class or something? What do you mean? What do you mean, Annabelle? Okay, while we're waiting for Annabelle, I will talk about why I chose to get the Ccsp and not the CCS first. Okay. Hi, Flor. I have a few goals for my career, right? And I had my CCA, right? I had it up until March of this year when I got my Ccsp. The reason that I chose to get the Ccsp before the CCS, could I take the CCS and pass today? Probably so, because of the simple fact that I've been studying enough. However, I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, I know I can pass the CCS, but I want to be able to pass it with a couple of touchdowns. So that's why I'm waiting. I have spent my entire career on the outpatient side. The training that I have gotten for the inpatient side has been through boot camps. I went through a wonderful boot camp through HC Pro, and that was the inpatient coding boot camp. I will say, if you are going to attempt to do any boot camps, that you do need to have some kind of knowledge already before you go in it, right? Because if you don't know what you're doing and you just decide to pick this boot camp because you think it looks cool, whoa, you're going to have to be studying a lot more. Because even for me, when I'm going through this boot camp, it's only 60 days, but it's just like, it's self-paced, but you still have to be able to read and concentrate and comprehend and understand and go through the little quizzes and things like that. So that is, I mean, it's a lot. And when you haven't had hands-on practice time, that's where a little bit of it's like, okay, I need to get more practice in before I go and sit for this exam. And again, I could pass it today, the CCS, sure. But I wanted to just go ahead and have that mastery credential, the Ccsp, the Certified Coding Specialist Physician Base. I wanted to have that under my belt. And, you know, having the CCA for as many years as I did and being very stubborn, holding on to it, because so many people said so many bad things about it. And, oh, well, you should get the CPC. Why would I get the CPC when I already have the CCA and it says I can code both inpatient and outpatient? What sense does that make to me? It didn't make sense because I already have it. Why do I need to double up? Now, when I do get the CCS, I will be technically doubled up because I will have the Ccsp and the CCS. CCS covering both inpatient and outpatient. Ccsp, outpatient. So could I drop the Ccsp? Sure. I think for me though, I will hold on to it for a little bit so that I can enjoy the fact that I have it and be proud of myself for doing that, because it's just something that when you take it and you pass an exam the first time, especially when you're passing these medical coding certification exams, it is tough. I mean, even for a veteran like myself, you have to sit there and you have to remember things and you got to go back in your head and you'd be like, okay, I know how I code, but I want to make sure I'm doing this right. And I want to make sure that I've got everything I need to take this exam. Like I've studied and I've done the coding, and I work in ortho, in podiatry. So I have to study for all these other specialties that I do have experience in, but I don't code them on a daily basis. I don't code urology on a daily basis. I don't code cardio on a daily basis. So these are things that I know I need to work on. And especially when you're taking an exam like the CCS and you have to know like the inpatient side coding. Not only that, you have to know the rules about it too as well. Like your primary diagnoses, you gotta learn about MSDRGs, and you gotta learn about all the rules on the inpatient side where you can code things like probable and maybe and suspected and things like that, because that is what the provider is treating on the inpatient side. The outpatient side, you can't do that. We got to code what is most definitive. So I have to be able to switch my brain on and off. And I want to make sure that I have enough practice before I go and do that. So there's that goalpost. I have that CCS goalpost, and I will get to that CCS goalpost, and I will pass that CCS when the time comes. And there's also the CDI that I want to be able to get to, the CDIP or the CCSDO, which is the the clinical documentation improvement practitioner with AHIMA. The CCSDO is the certified clinical documentation specialist outpatient, and that is with ACTIS, right? So that is the gold standard of CDI credentials, as far as I'm concerned, is with ACTIS. So that is also on my goal list. And that is what I want to do. And CDI is no joke. I just finished the outpatient, not the outpatient, I just finished the CDI boot camp literally days ago. And I passed the final exam for that program through HC Pro. I do recommend, on the first try. But believe me, I was like, but that was study. So, when you spend time like I do studying, you want to make sure that you're clear-headed enough to be able to sit for those things. When I was going to take my CCSP, I was going to take it back in February. But then I'm in Texas, so we had that horrible winter storm hit, and everything was iced over. Well, they canceled my test, and they said that you have to reschedule it because no one is taking exams. And this was after the storm had passed, but still they had said, okay, you need to take it at another time because we've had to reschedule all of these exams. So I was like, okay, well, the end of March was when I could get in, so I did, and I passed it on the first try. You never want to have to, if you can avoid it, take an exam again. Sometimes it happens even to the best of us. So but I just want to be able to do that. And like I said, I have these goalposts, and I really want to understand before I go and I take it, because it is hard, Annabelle says, okay, I think you answered my question there, inpatient, outpatient. Do you recommend boot camp if you have an LVN? Do you know anything about coding first? Anything? Do you know anything about coding before I answer that question? And what credential for coding? Sorry, just coding and not billing. All of the 4 major ones that I recommend, which is the CCS, the Certified Coding Specialist, the Ccsp, the Certified Coding Specialist Position Based, the CCA, the Certified Coding Associate, or the CPC, the Certified Professional Coder. Those 4 are the ones that I recommend. They all cover reimbursement. So you do not have to do billing, even though you have one of these credentials, you do not have to do billing, but it will cover that on the exam because we still have to understand how the billing process works. Reimbursement is a core foundation of any good medical billing and coding program. It is one of the elements that you have to have to be able to understand. We have to understand Medicare. We have to understand OIG and all this other good stuff. So because of that, all the exams are going to test you on some form of reimbursement, but it does not mean that you have to do billing. Okay. Chancel says, is a billing credential beneficial or necessary for coding? Nope, 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 nope. I will never recommend a billing credential. None of them. Because it is essentially, right? Like I said, with any of those 4, you're already being tested on reimbursement. Never have I ever seen in any of the job listings for medical coders or even medical billers, have I seen them asking for a billing credential. I say that when you are getting a billing credential, right? Why? And the reason that I ask why is because it's more money that is unnecessary for you to spend. It does nothing to you, or maybe learning something, maybe, but you can learn things on the job and they will train you on the job for billing because essentially it's the same process and you're processing paperwork and sending it to the insurance company. And there's different billing agencies that have different rules. So that's why a lot of times you'll see them. They'll say, we're willing to train. Or if the candidate has experience, that's great. If not, we will train. It does nothing. It does not add, it doesn't give you more money. And that's what a lot of people think is, if I go in there with a bunch of credentials after my name, and one of these is a billing credential, I'm going to get hired faster. I'm going to make more money. People with 4 or 5 or 6 credentials can make the same as a person who has 1 credential. So that is why I always tell people, if you're going to add additional credentials to your name, please make sure that it's something that is going to be worthwhile. Because to get continuing education units to maintain a medical billing credential doesn't make sense to me. Why would you do that when you don't even need it? Your credential, one of those 4, already covers billing. And a lot of times all you need to be a biller is a high school diploma or a GED. You don't even have to be a medical coder. But a lot of coders get their start in medical billing because they need to get around the codes. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's very beneficial if a coder starts off as a biller, right? Because you see the whole revenue cycle process. But you don't have to start off in billing. I did not. My first job was a coder, and I have been a coder ever since then. I've never done billing. I understand billing, some of the stuff, because I've had to do research, especially when I'm going back and forth with a biller, you know. So when you have something like that, then that's something different, you know. But no, it does not, in my opinion, this is my opinion. People are going to disagree with me, I know. But in my opinion, no, there is no benefit to having a billing credential. So that is my comment on that. But you're welcome. And I know that sometimes that's what a lot of people hear, is that you need multiple, and I'm like the one lone voice who says no, you don't. So it's like, who do I believe? I don't have anything to sell you, and I want you guys to be successful. Concentrate on perfecting your skill as a medical coder. Really take extra classes in medical terminology and things like that, because that's going to help you, rather than trying to rack up all these credentials where you're not really understanding what's happening. Because I see people add all these other things, like for risk adjustment, things like that. With the credential, you can still do risk adjustment. Not only that, a lot of times when you see the job listings for risk adjustment, HCC coder, they're not even asking for them to be certified. So that to me is scary, because it's just like, how can you have somebody who hasn't had any technical training in coding looking at these records and getting all these diagnoses, because it's only diagnosis coding. So even if you're starting out your career as a brand new medical coder doing HCC or risk adjustment coding, you know, it's good, right? Because you're getting some experience down, but you're not getting evaluation and management experience. You're not getting procedure coding experience. So it's going to stunt your growth a little bit if you're not willing to move appropriately after. Just get a little bit of experience and make those connections and then move on, right? Because you never want to get stuck there. Because if you get stuck there doing years of HCC coding or risk adjustment coding, when you try to move on, they're going to ask, how much procedure coding have you done? And if you say none, it's gonna give you like an obstacle to get over, you know. My goal is to be a RHIA, but working towards a CPC at this time. That's good. That's good, because, you know, the industry needs good leaders, and good leaders that are going to take chances on new coders. I always tell people who are in the RHIA program that when you get into that position of, you know, being in leadership, and you get to decide for your facility what our rules are for the coding department, because you always get that sometimes. Well, they said that at their facility, it is only people who have this many years of experience, or this credential, or whatever, some weird set of rules. And I say weird set because just because you have a degree doesn't necessarily mean that you are a stellar coder. Just because you have a certain association credential does not mean you are a stellar coder. It should be on an individual basis, because I've seen people who have the CPC who struggle, people who have CCS with their credential, they still struggle. So it doesn't matter what credential you have, you can still struggle with coding. I think it should be that you test the person, because every single position that I've gotten, they didn't ask for a CCA, but I still applied anyway. And I still got it because I got it on merit. I got it on my ability to be able to pass their assessment test and to be able to show my skills, because somebody said, okay, instead of having this ridiculous set of rules, oh, we only get this kind of people. No. To me, if I'm doing the hiring, I would say it's based on the individual. I'm not going to turn my nose up at anybody. The only thing that I would require is that they would be certified with AHIMA or AAPC. And so at least that's what I would do if I was in that position. But anyway, so let's see what else. I think I covered pretty much most of it. Does it all make sense? Does it help? Does anybody have any other questions? Charday says, this is so true. I have an associate's degree in medical billing and coding, and I have been terribly scared to take the CPC exam for 2 years. But why, Charday? Why? Go for it. A says, hey, Blue, currently studying right now and learning how to use the ICD-10 CM book. Well, that's good. Chancellor says, I appreciate the info. Tabular lists and table of neoplasms and all that jazz. Yes, because believe it or not, some people go through their programs and no one explains the table of neoplasms and the table of drugs and chemicals. They don't they don't explain that to them either, or the external cost section. So it is a good thing to learn, especially when you're taking the time to look at the book yourself, you know. And as far as fear of the exam, so there's something that happens sometimes when we get to the end of a project, or we get to the end of a long journey, right? It's the end and you have to take that final thing. And there's that that want to just stop, and there's something unknown on the other side, but you've had this experience this whole time where you've been in school and you've had these unsure feelings, so you're getting used to this, right? And this wondering what's going to happen after you get the certification, right? So you go through this, and then there's that need to just kind of stop, and that need to stop is, like you said, it's that fear that comes into play. Like, can I pass this? Can I not pass this? Did I learn enough? I want to study a little bit more before I take this. I want to review this again and again. And then by the time you know it, 1 year has passed, 2 years has passed. So everything that you had fresh in your mind when you finished your program, is now gone. Now you're essentially, if you have not been studying, if you have not been doing these things this whole time, you're essentially going to have to start learning all over again. And the thought of that would scare me, not taking that chance on myself, not taking that risk to say, well, if I fail, I can always take it again. That's the thing about AAPC, is if you're going to the proctored exam, right, you get that free retake. If you're taking it at home, then you only get the one shot, right? But with AAPC, you get the 2 chances. So the fact that you haven't given yourself a chance to even take the exam once, you have to kind of look at your why. Why were you wanting to do this? And that should be the catalyst to get you motivated enough to stay on course to be able to take that exam, no sooner than 90 days after you finish your program. That's what I recommend. That is my personal recommendation to people when they ask me, how soon? What is the longest I should wait? Technically, you should be done within 30 days. But 90 days for people who have been through an accelerated program. I understand. It's fast. You need time to study. There's life and there's work and there's all these other things that get in the way, right? But even if you are working 40 hours a week, there's still time to study. You can still devote 20 hours per week to study. That's a lot of time, Blue. 20 hours a week is not that bad. When you break it down, and you can break it down, 5 hours on Saturday, 5 hours on Sunday, and 2 hours each day during the week. And I've done a video where I talk about study tips for busy people. Well, Blue, I don't have time to do 2 hours a day because, I go to work and I come home and I got to feed the kids. I got to take care of my old lady or take care of my husband. And then I got to walk the dog and I got to feed the cats and I have birds and iguanas. Okay. Well, very cool, right? At the same time, you have your drive to work. How much time do you have on that drive? 30 minutes. Okay, you got 30 minutes on that drive. Guess what you can do in 30 minutes? Listen. So there are plenty of really good podcasts. The only one that I'm going to recommend is the one by Brian Quee, the Not Elsewhere Classified podcast. He's the only one that I will recommend because I believe in what his message is, okay? But there are also ones for like anatomy specifically, or about, HIPAA and the OIG and stuff like that. You can listen to those. That's 30 minutes. So you have 30 minutes going to work, 30 minutes coming home. That is 1 hour of your 2 hours that you need to do during the week. Okay, well, what about the other hour? Okay, well, now you have 2 breaks, right? Typically, people have 2 breaks in an 8-hour workday. That's 30 minutes that you have. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. You can read, you can listen, you can work on a anatomy coloring book, which is what I recommend. I always recommend the anatomy coloring books because it helps you to get that in your mind. If you are a member of my Patreon channel, I do crossword puzzles. I was going to say word puzzles. Crossword puzzles to help with medical terminology. So there's plenty of ways that you could sneak time in, because if you are doing this, you are already at an hour and a half, and that is just it being at work. You still have a free lunch, okay? Free lunch time to do whatever you want to do. But you do that, that's an hour and a half. Then when you come home, 30 minutes to read. You got 30 minutes. No, Blue, the kids and everything. I guarantee you've been on social media for at least 45 minutes. You can do 30 minutes to study for something that you want. And then there's the weekend. So there's all of these alternatives and ways of sneaking in extra time to study. It is possible, folks, but you got to have your why. Why are you doing it? And your why can change. It's not that it doesn't have to be the same, but if you are a parent and you want to do this for your kids because you want a better life for them and you want a better life for yourself. I've had people who say, well, Blue, I've got little kids and I'm tired of working at fast food restaurants and barely making minimum wage. I want to have a nice house. I want to have nice things. Okay, it's going to take work. It's going to take commitment to your cause, which is study, get your certification, and then get out there and get that job. Blue, it's hard. Everything is hard. Anything that you want in life is going to be hard. But you have to fight for it so that you can appreciate it. Because if you don't, if it comes easy to you, everybody would do it. And then where would we be? But because it's so technical, that's why it's just like, okay, not everybody can do it. And not everybody has the attention span to do it either. There are some people that get into it because they think, oh, it's easy money because somebody lied to them. And then when they see that all the work that goes into it, oh, then they're like, oh, yeah, maybe I know I can't do this. But if this is what you want to do, it provides a very good living. And it fulfills that intellectual need for a challenge as well. If you're coming from a different industry, or if you're coming from just being like a stay-at-home mom and you want something that's going to challenge your mind and not just do something physical, but really think, this is it, because you're always going to learn. We always have new rules to learn, and we're always perfecting our craft. And me perfecting my craft, my own definition is studying and reading more about ortho and podiatry and everything else that I need to know. Because we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. So I always feel like I'm having to catch up so that when I talk to my providers, I don't sound like I don't know what I'm doing, I want them to know that I've done the research and I've taken the time to try to learn it. Because not everybody does that. Let's see. I saw a lot of comments coming in. A says, I keep remembering what you said about getting to know your books, and all the answers are there. Yes, all the answers are there. Christina, at A, I am getting to that point soon to learn ICD-10. I'm starting to intro to coding tomorrow. A tribe. So just get one of the coding certifications, CPC, CCS, Ccsp, or the CCA, or take more than one of these. You only need one. You only need one to start, okay? A says, at Christina, congratulations, girl, and best of luck. Nikki says, stumbled across your live. Great info. I've been a coder for 8 years. Oh, congratulations. And I have a CPC, but I feel like the CCS opens more doors for jobs, especially if you're striving to become an inpatient coder. But skills are key. So you understand, Nikki. You get what I'm saying, yes. A says, I got an anatomy coloring book. I'm so excited. Got brand new coloring pencils too. Whatever it takes for you to get excited about learning, do it. Anna, hey Blue, are you familiar with the 6-week online CCS course by Codemaster? Oh no. If so, what do you feel about it? You see me trying to hide, right? Hi Jamie, don't worry. You're not late, you're here. And you can always watch the playback. Anna, A says, at Anna, Blue has mentioned before, she feels that the coding training should be at least 9 months. I've seen a lot of ads on Facebook since signing up for coding, and they make it look like you can do the job with a baby on your hip and learn it in 4 weeks. Did I mention today how much I'm glad that I have my channel, that I can talk to you guys? I know there's people that probably hate me, but that's okay because I don't do it for the people who hate me. I do it for the people who need me. And you guys need the truth. No, you cannot learn something as serious as the CCS in 6 weeks. If you have no background in medical coding, how can you think of learning inpatient coding and outpatient coding in 6 weeks' time? I don't know anything about that program. I don't know what they're teaching, what the syllabus is, but 6 weeks? Now, a 6-week program for like a test prep, like you've already been through the coding program and everything like that, like you already know, and it's a 6-week test prep for the CCS. Now that makes sense to me. Okay, you're just test prepping. Okay, I get that. You know, you whatever. Yeah, I get it. But to learn and take the CCS in 6 weeks, that doesn't, like, I don't know. No. Best ortho resources. Is that a name or you're asking me? A tribe. Jamie, I agree 100%. Thank you. A tribe, if you're asking what the best ortho resources are, orthoinfo.org is the number one for me. That's the one that I recommend. Orthoinfo.org. It is all one word. And that has all the breakdown of the injury codes and the organic conditions, like the body, like the osteoarthritis and stuff like that. It talks about all of that stuff. Bursitis and tendonitis and things like that. Yes, okay, good. So I didn't know if that was like the name of a business or something, like Best Ortho. But yes, that's what I would recommend, orthoinfo.org, because it has a lot of really good breakdown on that. Being an ortho coder, I've depended on that more than once. That's the number one that I have. And of course, there's always justcoding.com. Justcoding.com has a free subscription and have a paid subscription. They have lots of coding, free coding quizzes, and they have different subjects, ortho being one of them, injury coding being another. So, okay, it's a test prep. Oh, okay. Because I was going to say to learn it, and oh no. Anna says, it's a test prep, and I was thinking about doing it after I'm done with my RHIA program. Okay, well, then that's something different. If it's a test prep, then that's different. If it's to learn the program itself, to learn the CCS, then no. I think most of the, Hannah says, I think most of the problem is that most people are looking into medical coding, don't understand how much really goes into this. The first step of becoming a medical coder is knowing how to do your research. Yes, that is very, very true. Because a lot of times people will say, well, you can, all you do is you use an encoder and you just punch in a few words and, you know, then you get your answer. Well, they don't tell them about the critical thinking that goes into it and how different words have they're like synonyms for different things, right? And so that's the other thing too. So it's a completely different language, folks. Again, we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. We have to know what they're saying, and we have to understand when we need to question what is going on here. Because if we don't get it, then we need to do our research to be able to get it. And if we don't, then that's when we need to reach out to our providers and say, hey, can you help me to figure this out? Because if you have a really good relationship with your providers, they're willing to help, you know. But if you don't, and you just want to sit there and be like, oh, I'm not talking to them because they yelled at me, you can't let them scare you off, whatever you do. I'm doing great, Mitney. How are you? So, hi, Blue. Hi, everyone. Weneska. I like that name. So if you are getting value out of this video, I hope that you will thumb it up. Comment below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I know some people like for me to work for their subscription because, you know, they want to know what I'm made out of. I have a lot of videos. I have probably over 500 now. I believe I'm over 500. Probably closer to 600 by now because I have been doing my what is it, Christmas in July series. And my Christmas in July series is covering all the memory lane stories of my early days as a medical coder and some other things about myself. So I hope you all are enjoying this because I do this for you guys, you know. Jamie, I've been getting discouraged about finding a job. And then A-Tribe says guidelines. So Jamie, have you applied for medical billing? Have you applied for risk adjustment? Have you applied for HCC? Have you applied at the temporary agency? Like I mentioned yesterday. I did a video and I talked about applying at the temporary agency. Temporary agencies, they're there to supplement the workforce whenever an employer calls in and says, hey, I need a coder over here. Now, they're going to assume that you already know what you're doing because you work for a temporary agency. Temporary agency may give you a test just to see kind of where you are. But you get your first assignment. If you're available, you get your first assignment and you go and you get that experience. Even if it's just for a couple of days or maybe even a day. Now you have something to put on your resume. And the more they see you putting stuff on your resume and getting that experience in, okay, this is a person that we can take a chance on. How does your resume look? I've talked about this. The resume. It's the calling card, folks. It is your skills on a silver platter. Your cover letter. Excuse me. I need to stop drinking coffee when I'm talking to you guys. The cover letter, it needs to not be a regurgitation of your resume, but it needs to say why. If you're changing careers, why are you changing careers? What transferable skills are you going to highlight? You have to be able to do that. You can't just concentrate on the fact that you don't have experience. Don't get into positions like scheduling or front desk because that's almost a dead end. There's nothing that has anything to do with coding. Scheduling and front desk, that's nothing to do with coding. You need to get into medical records, medical billing, medical coding, HCC coding, risk adjustment coding, prior authorizations. Those are the positions you need to be looking for. Read the job postings. There's a lot of them out there because I'm always doing those what is it? Come on, Blue. The job listings explain. And I tell you guys, reading that fine print and looking in there, that is the start. It's telling you what are they looking for. A says, thank you, Blue. You're welcome. I love when people put the blue heart. I love that. Maximus the Clone says, Blue is right. If a provider's notes explain the procedure that's a cystostomy, oops, I said that too quick. If he explains a cystostomy, you know what it is without being told. You could accidentally think it's a cystoectomy or a cystotomy. I can't read. You have procedures too. So there you go. So Live with Vonnie G. Thank you so much for the info. I was listening on my drive home. Oh, thank you. I'm in the last few units of my schooling and aiming to test for the CPC. Project Resume did my resume. Jamie, I want to point you to some other resources. Can you email me medicalcodingwithbleu, and blue is BLEU at gmail.com. My email address is in the description box as well if anybody else wants it. So please email me after the show. I would really like to share some really good resources with you. Okay. But hopefully that they will help. Sure will. Okay, good. But yes, so don't give up. If you're out there, the message is don't give up when you are out there looking for a job, especially if you're a brand new coder. We all went through this. It's not personal. Whatever you think, it is not personal. Good. Got your email. Okay, good, good. But take the time to really try to make those connections as well. If you are on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great way to make connections. There's been people who've had success finding mentors on LinkedIn or getting leads on jobs and things like that. There's also lots of, I see them all the time for continuing education units, free ones. So that is also a really good resource to find free ones. Imagine is great for that. Well, let's go. Bleu. I have a question. Can I do this course of medical billing and coding fully online? I already had an associate's degree in pre-nursing, but couldn't continue with my BSN. Yes, everybody, there's people who learn online all the time. Jamie, see, I was thinking it was just me. No, it's not just you. Anna, thanks for the advice, Bleu. I applied for a medical billing job on Indeed, and it shows that it was viewed today. Fingers crossed. We'll see. There you go. You know, if you, okay, say for instance, you have your certification, right? And you've been working in fast food, or you've been working in retail, so you have cash handling experience. Do you have that on your resume? Do you have that on your resume if you want to be a medical biller? Because you know what medical billers do? They handle cash, or sometimes they handle checks, or sometimes they handle like the credit card machine. So if you have experience with those things, you've got to put that on your resume. You've got to keep things as to the point as possible. It has to be visually appealing so that the person who's reading it is not sitting there reading a novel that you put in front of them. Resume should be no more than 2 pages. No more than 2 pages. Ideally, it's on 1 page, but no more than 2. 2 is fine. I've done resume reviews many times, and I've had people tell me that they've had success with me reviewing the resumes. So that is something that it depends on what you're looking at as the employer, as the employee, and what you're sending out. Okay, if you're sending out boilerplate type cover letters and resumes that they look like it looks like there was no thought put into it, you're going to get passed over. You have to remember that there's probably about 100 or 200 people applying for this same job. So they're going to pick the ones that stand out. So if you're not standing out, or you're not trying to showcase your skills, next. You know, and don't make it sound like you're trying to sell something either. I've gotten cover letters that look like that. Oh, are you ready to have a really attentive medical coder on your staff? No. Everybody's an attentive medical coder, and don't sound like you're trying to sell a can of beans. You know what I'm saying? You've got to be yourself. You've got to be clear about what you want. Maximus a clone. If your notes say craniotomy and a craniectomy, only code for the craniectomy. Jamie, can you look at my resume and see what you think of it? Again, message me after the show and we'll talk. Maximus, would it be okay to say you're obsessed with coding? It's true. Well, yes. It is a torrid affair, really. When you think about it, because there are some days when it is so great and so awesome and I'm so into it, and then there are other days when it's just like, why do people do this to me? I tell my providers this all the time. I say, why do you do this to me? Why do you make me query you? I have one PA that we have that back and forth. And I said, I'll show up at his door. I said, why do you do this to me? He goes, what did I do now? And I go, why do you make me query you? He goes, I wouldn't see you any other way, right? Because he goes, you're in your office and I can go over there. Yes, but when you have to query me, you have to come over here. I go, why do you do that? And I go, I will come and visit you. You don't have to make me query you. Of course, this is all a joke, but yes, I am obsessed. I love what I do. I'm actually not working. This is not work to me. And it is possible to get like this with your career. It doesn't necessarily have to be coding, right? But it's it's what has, God, what is a good word for it? It has kept me entertained. It has kept me on my toes for years. And I sometimes will say that it literally saved me from being bored, you know, from a career that perhaps I never wanted, right? Thinking of something that I would have thought I wanted, right, which was to be an attorney. That was my childhood dream, was to be an attorney. And my whole life growing up, it was just like, okay, attorney, attorney, attorney. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be Bleu, attorney at law. And my life didn't turn out that way. And I got dealt this fancy hand of medical coding. It's not for everybody, but for me, it suits me just fine. I like it. A says, I've been enjoying looking at all the different injury codes. There's a specific code for being injured on a hoverboard. Yes. Maximus says, in my position, I'm trying to set 8 hours. Oops. Said it too quick again. I'm studying 8 hours, but I always go over 2. I can't stop. Lauren says, just about to receive my certificate of completion from my college for coding and sit for the exam. So I'm glad this live is here because I was torn between going with the CCS or Ccs-P. Oh, good. I'm so glad. I like that, Lauren. I like when my video comes out with something that people need, you know, and knowing the difference between the two and somebody being able to explain that to you. If you feel more strongly about the outpatient side but not so sure about the inpatient side, the Ccs-P is the way to go. But if you wanted to knock out both, you know, with the Ccs-P, that is totally, I mean, CCS, that is totally fine, you know. So, you know, at least this way you know now. Ccs-P, all outpatient. CCS is inpatient and outpatient. So it's entirely up to you. You still, the credential is still asked for. Okay, so depending on where you're going, you know, and then later on you can always take the CCS, or, you know, if you definitely don't have to take the Ccs-P if you take and pass the CCS, right? So, you know. Oh, I got 19 likes. Oh, thank you guys. I'm feeling the love. I always consider that a victory when there's more likes and then there's people watching, like, okay, good. I'm doing good. Jamie says, see, I enjoy learning every day when I study coding. Always something new to learn. I did an internship at a local doctor's office and worked in the coding department and loved it. That's wonderful. So I hope that I see that on your resume because that's important, no matter if it was one day. Doesn't matter if you were there half a day. It's still time that you spent there. They need to know. The employer needs to know. So, but yes, hopefully wherever you are on your journey, you are taking a look at your own needs, what you want, not putting too much pressure on yourself, but putting just enough just to get through those times. And, you know, again, if you need motivation, I've got plenty of motivational videos. Last Vlogmas, right? When I did Vlogmas last year in 2020, I did it all on motivation. So there's a whole playlist for Vlogmas, and it is literally motivation after motivation after motivation. And I talk about different subjects about motivation. So, and I've had Motivation Monday as well too. So if you need motivation, trust me. But I will give it to you straight. I will tell you that. So it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fluffy. It is going to be straight to the point. And a lot of times people say, I needed that. Sometimes we need it as adults because we have to be reminded that, yes, we have the power to do things on our own. We have the power to move forward and do things. We don't have to be the same as we were before. We don't have to, you know, suffer from the consequences that we did before as kids. Like, oh, maybe we dropped out of high school. Well, maybe you got your GED, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a good career, folks. you can get a medical coding certification with a GED. All right, you don't necessarily have to have a high school diploma. If you are English is not your first language, but you've studied English and your English is really good now, and you want to go for this, then by all means go for it. Nothing should stop you. If that's what you want to do, then by all means go for it. So James says it's on there. Just wanted to let you know you do a wonderful job with these videos. I'm like, thank you. Maximus, I don't need motivation, but I'll still watch it because I enjoy watching you. Aw, thank you. I'm so glad. But it's good. It's good. Even I need motivation sometimes. I watch TED Talks when I do. I got my GED. Hey, nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Like I said, you could come from a background completely opposite of medical. Okay, you don't even have to come from a background of medical. I delivered phone books. I cleaned houses. I was a bartender. I worked at a halfway house. I've had lots of jobs in this life. Taishina, very pretty. I like that. I want to start self-studying, but money is low. Would you recommend studying with 2019, 2020 books until I can buy newer books? Sure. That's fine. Because you can always get the updated coding guidelines from CMS for free. Lauren, I'm preferring outpatient more, I think. So I'll probably start with the Ccsp. Good for you. I definitely appreciate the new and simplified E&M for this side. Yes, it is good. But remember, the ER still has those requirements. So, but you can see that in the CPT book. So, but yes. And you're welcome, you, Tachina. Yeah, when it comes to the E&M, my providers get confused even still because they're like, Blue, I feel like I'm missing a lot of stuff. And I go, it's because you're used to it and we drilled it into you guys for so long that you need this many points and this and this and this. And now it's just like, okay, problem pertinent. And, just give me your time or give me your medical decision making. And they're like, okay, but I still feel like I'm missing something. Oh, well. But I said, as long as you're doing good, and if you're not, I will tell you. Definitely. I don't hide that from them. Maximus, I modeled, acted, performed, and was all around princess. But I was my freedom now. Free Christy. Aww. Well, see, and it's any walk of life, really. Whether you did modeling, acting, performing, or you worked at McDonald's or Wendy's or, you were housekeeper. It is for everybody. If you want to study and you're in it, by all means, go for it. But you can't be in it halfway, folks. You can't be lukewarm about it. You've got to be all in. You can't just be like, well, and then give it up the next day. That's not the way this works. You have to be committed. I want my freedom now. You'll get there, and soon enough, you'll be in your first job. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. You guys have been awesome tonight. Thank you so much for the lively engagement, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the love. I really appreciate that. Please like, subscribe, share if you found this helpful, because it may help somebody else. So I will see y'all next time. Bye.